As promised, the rest of the story. When we got back to a terminal a few states away, I had to go see a doctor at a clinic. Walking hurt, and I was sore all over. They took x-rays to make sure nothing was broken. I was put on pain medication and muscle relaxers and got back on the truck, not driving, to get back to our main terminal. When we got to the main terminal, I had to go see another doctor. Of course, these were workers' comp doctors. He checked me out and asked a bunch of questions. I told him that my right shoulder hurt and my lower back was sore. I also said that I hurt in my groin and outer hip area and down my butt on each side. Somehow, out of all of that, only got sore back. He put me on an 8-hour restriction for driving, and back on the truck I went. I was to come back in after a week for a checkup. This kept on for several weeks until he finally took me off the truck and sent me to an ortho for my shoulder. He was still treating my back pain, and I continued to reiterate that it was my hips that hurt. Saw the ortho and was told I had to have rotator cuff surgery. That seemed like the end of the world to me. I had the surgery and was in the sling for weeks. Started on physical therapy. At about the 6-month point, I told the doctor that my shoulder still hurt and that I couldn't even pour a glass of milk from a gallon jug. They did an MRI and found I had a tear, so it was back to surgery. Of course, that didn't happen right away. Why didn't it happen, you ask? Because it took 6 months to get that MRI. I can tell you are thinking, why did it take 6 months? Well, I was still going to the other doctor for my back, and he let me know there was nothing else he could do, and surgery couldn't fix it. Like I wanted surgery. He sent me to a pain management doctor. Very nice lady. First time anyone listened to what I was saying. She let me know she looked at the MRI of my back, and there was nothing wrong with it. She asked me where it hurt. I showed her, and she said, "That's your hip. You need to see an ortho." Well, that didn't happen. Everything got shut down. My physical therapy for the shoulder, the MRI for my shoulder, everything. So after 6 months, they finally decided to approve the MRI. And like I said, there was a tear. It took another few months to actually get approved for surgery. We had to go through the, "We'll give you this little amount of money and it all goes away." No, fix me. Finally, surgery for the right shoulder again, and he basically patched an area he said was not healing correctly. So at this point, I am using a walker to walk and getting pushed in it most of the time. I couldn't take 5 steps without having to stop and rest. According to the x-rays of my hips, it was discovered that I have hip dysplasia, which is crazy since I have been active my whole life. I work out, ride a bike 10 miles 3 times a week, play racquetball, swim, drive a truck, which includes climbing in and out, going under the trailer, into the trailer, and a lot of walking. How could I do all of that and lead a normal life with this deformity? Well, they didn't care because they aren't covering it. Now, I was really in a spot. It's already been a year and a half since I fell, and I'm almost completely disabled. I had to find insurance and see a doctor on my own, which I did. I saw a few until I found the one I trusted. We did my right hip in September, and my left one was just done 3 weeks ago. The right one went great. This left one has been a bit of a problem child, but of course, I wouldn't expect anything different from my body. The left side, when he was putting the stem into the bone, there was a small crack. So, of course, he had to wrap the bone with wire to make sure it doesn't get worse. I was told my femur fractured when he put the stem in, and I was restricted to what they called toe touch weight bearing. In other words, not more than 50 pounds on my left leg. I have 3 more weeks before I see the doctor to see if I can go full weight on it. Now back to the shoulder, about 6 months in again, I still couldn't pour a glass of milk or anything else. What should I expect? I go in to see the doctor, and his PA does that test with my arms by having me hold them out, and he puts his hand above mine and tells me to push up. Okay, I'm doing the best I can. And all of a sudden, he pushes that hand down with such force, I felt pain go from the front of my shoulder around to the back. I yelp. He jumps and immediately says, "No use right arm," orders an MRI, and orders an x-ray. X-ray says nothing is broken. I get the MRI, and I go back to the doctor. There is a small hole and a tear. My doctor's advice is to get a shot in my shoulder and back to physical therapy. I comply. After all, he just spent most of the visit trying to convince me that I didn't really hurt that bad, and other people have almost complete tears and are fine. And here I am with this hole. He never addresses the tear that was on the report, and it hurts so bad. The shot lasted all of 1 week, and the pain was back with a vengeance. I did physical therapy, but my therapist was a bit concerned about giving me a shot and going then physical therapy, so I can't feel if something tears worse. After a few weeks, I go back to the doctor, and he pretty much says there comes that time when you may just be as good as it's going to get. So help me out here. I am prohibited from doing anything with my arm out to the side. I can't lift weight out in front only 30 pounds to my waist. But here we are. I go at the end of the month for an evaluation of what I can do and where I'm at. It has been a long 2 years filled with depression, anxiety, self doubt. And on top of all that, there's the ex wife. But that's another story or 10 for another day. I know I will walk normal again, and hopefully both my shoulders get better. From putting a tremendous amount of strain on the left shoulder because of the right one having issues, the left one now hurts too. Some days I sit here and think, will it ever end? But I remember that there is someone watching over me, and I just have to trust that everything will turn out like it should. Stay tuned for the next chapter, The X.